In the peaceful village of Ifekokun, southwestern Nigeria, love blossomed between Ruth and Oluwafemi. Their love story was the talk of the village, one that began under the mango tree where they had first met as children. Oluwafemi, with his warm smile and easy charm, was the pride of the village, a hard-working farmer with dreams of expanding his father's land. Ruth, with her grace and beauty, was the daughter of the village schoolteacher, known for her kindness and wisdom. Their courtship was pure and simple, marked by evening strolls by the river and long conversations under the starlit sky. When Oluwafemi proposed, offering a simple yet heartfelt promise of love and devotion, Ruth eagerly accepted. Their wedding was a grand affair by the village's standards, with everyone gathered to celebrate the union of two souls so clearly meant to be together. The drumming and dancing continued late into the night, and the joy in the air was palpable. Ruth's best friend, Temi, was by her side throughout, serving as her maid of honor. Temi and Ruth had been close since childhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and everything in between. Temi was happy for her friend, or so it seemed. Beneath her smiles and well wishes, Temi harbored a deep-seated envy. She had always admired Oluwafemi from afar, secretly hoping that one day he might notice her. But when he chose Ruth instead, that admiration turned into bitter resentment. As Ruth and Oluwafemi settled into their new life together, Temi became a frequent visitor to their home. She always seemed to have a reason to stop by, bringing fresh vegetables from the market, offering to help with the cooking, or simply dropping in to chat. Ruth, ever trusting and kind, welcomed her friend with open arms, unaware of the growing darkness in Temi's heart. At first, Temi's presence was kind, even helpful. She would praise Oluwafemi's hard work and compliment Ruth on her cooking, all the while secretly seething with jealousy. However, as the months passed, her visits became more intrusive. She would casually mention how lucky Ruth was to have a husband like Oluwafemi, but there was always an edge to her voice, a hint of something more sinister. Temi's jealousy soon began to manifest in more destructive ways. She started to sow seeds of doubt in Ruth's mind, subtly undermining her confidence in her marriage. She would make offhand remarks about how Oluwafemi seemed to spend a lot of time at the market, how he was always so friendly with the women there. "Are you sure he's just buying supplies?" she would ask with a raised eyebrow, planting the idea that perhaps Oluwafemi's affections weren't as exclusive as Ruth believed. At first, Ruth dismissed these remarks. She trusted Oluwafemi completely, believing in the strength of their love. But Temi was persistent, her insinuations growing bolder with time. She would point out how Oluwafemi seemed more tired lately, how he no longer looked at Ruth with the same intensity he once did. "Men are like that," Temi would say with a knowing look. "They get bored easily. You have to keep them interested." Ruth, once so confident in her marriage, began to feel the weight of Temi's words. She started to notice things she hadn't before, how Oluwafemi would come home late from the farm, how he seemed distracted during their conversations. The doubts that Temi had carefully nurtured began to take root in Ruth's heart, growing like a poisonous vine. The once happy home became a place of tension and mistrust. Ruth grew distant, pulling away from Oluwafemi even as he tried to understand what had changed. He noticed the sadness in her eyes, the way she no longer greeted him with the same warmth. When he asked her what was wrong, she would simply shake her head, saying nothing. But feeling everything, Oluwafemi, confused and hurt by Ruth's sudden coldness, began to withdraw as well. He spent more time at the farm, finding solace in the work that had always been his refuge. He couldn't understand why the love of his life was slipping away from him, and in his frustration, he became more irritable and less patient. Temi, seeing the cracks she had caused, began to push harder. She would drop by unannounced, making snide comments about how Oluwafemi was too good-looking to be tied down to just one woman. She would mention how other women in the village talked about him, how they admired his strength and handsomeness. Ruth, already vulnerable, began to believe that perhaps she wasn't enough for him, that he might indeed be looking elsewhere. The final blow came one evening when Oluwafemi returned home later than usual. He had been helping a neighbor with a broken fence, but when Ruth questioned him, her voice was filled with suspicion. Oluwafemi, tired and frustrated, slapped at her, something he had never done before. The argument that followed was their worst yet, with accusations flying and hurtful words exchanged. That night, Ruth wept bitterly, feeling the weight of her doubts and the crumbling of the life she had once cherished. Tammy, sensing that her plan had finally succeeded, came by the next morning with a fake expression of concern. She pretended to comfort Ruth, but in her heart, she was gleeful at the destruction she had wrought. Oluwafemi, realizing that things had gone too far, decided to confront Tammy. He had always sensed a certain darkness in her, but out of respect for Ruth, he had never voiced his concerns. Now, however, he could see the truth. He approached her directly, asking her to stay away from his wife, to stop poisoning her mind with lies. Tammy, cornered, lashed out. She accused Oluwafemi of ignoring Ruth, of not being the husband she deserved. She threw every accusation she could think of, trying to deflect from her guilt. But Oluwafemi saw through her charade. He knew now that Tammy's jealousy had been the root of their problems all along. Realizing that he had to act quickly to save his marriage, Oluwafemi went to Ruth and laid everything out in the open. He apologized for his part in their troubles, for not seeing how much she was hurting. He explained how Tammy's jealousy had been the catalyst for their problems, and how she had manipulated Ruth into doubting his love. Ruth, hearing the truth, felt a mixture of relief and guilt. She realized that she had allowed Type's envy to cloud her judgment, to come between her and the man she loved. She wept in Oluwafemi's arms, apologizing for doubting him, and for letting their love be tainted by someone else's bitterness. Together, they decided to distance themselves from Tammy, to rebuild their marriage on a foundation of trust and communication. It wasn't easy. Tammy's betrayal had left deep scars, but their love for each other was strong enough to endure. Tammy, now shunned by the couple and eventually the entire village, was left alone with her bitterness. Her jealousy had cost her the friendship she had once cherished and left her with nothing but regrets. The village, once buzzing with gossip about Oluwafemi and Ruth, now turned its back on her, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions. As for Ruth and Oluwafemi, they found their way back to each other, stronger than before. They learned to communicate better, to trust each other more deeply, and to cherish the love that had brought them together. Their marriage, once threatened by jealousy and deceit, emerged from the ordeal renewed, a testament to the enduring power of true love. In the quiet village of Ifekokun, where shadows of envy once threatened to destroy everything, love ultimately prevailed.